Good morning, everyone. I want to thank you for your presence today. We are here to remember the sacrifice of one of our own, Malden police officer Officer McLain, who 86 years ago today, November 12, 1934, made the ultimate sacrifice in the exact location where we are standing today. Officer McLain was 63 years old, badge number 1, the most senior member of the Malden Police Department. He had moved here from Maine as an adult. He joined the police department where he served for 36 years. On November 12, 1934, he was working his normal day shift. He was a route man. He walked Edgeworth. And we have records. At 2:46 p.m., while standing across from the Immaculate Conception Church, Officer Officer McLain made his last ring of a call box at 2:46 p.m. As he stood there, not knowing what was going to face him a short while in the future, there was a man in Medford, Salem Street at the Fellsway, who had been robbed a week before at gunpoint. And he had noticed the suspect walking from Salem Street in Medford into Malden. And the suspect continued along Pleasant Street to the Fellsway. And the victim of that robbery saw Officer Officer McLain standing on Pleasant Street across from the Immaculate Conception Church and flagged him down. This was 1934. There were no radios. There were no cell phones. He flagged down Officer McLain and told him that a man that had robbed me a week before is walking up the Fellsway. So what did Officer McLain do? He did what each and every one of you do, each and every day. He went in that direction. It reminds me of a phrase of General Alfred Gray, who said, "I go to the sound of thunder." Or during the Napoleonic era, one of Napoleon's generals had a philosophy that you march toward the sound of guns. What that really means is that you cops, you advance toward the danger. You go where you're needed. You go where others have the ability to run away from. Officer McLain did not do that. 63 years old, badge number 1. He got in the vehicle with the witness victim and they drove to this location right here. The suspect was walking along this sidewalk. Officer McLain had the civilian victim drive a little bit past, and McLain got out of the vehicle and engaged with the suspect right here. Officer McLain, by all accounts, was a very capable officer. He was described as the best shot on the department and incredibly strong. Some of it sounds almost a myth. When he was 19 years old, he once lifted a 700-pound pile drive 3 feet off the ground. When he was a cop, he went by the Converse rubber factory and once lifted a 620-pound gear off the ground. And even back then, they had a gym at the police station. They had a 107-pound dumbbell. And Officer McLain was famous that with his right hand he lifted it 17 times himself. He was a capable cop, a capable person. He engaged that suspect by himself. No radios, no backup, no body armor. And during that confrontation, the suspect pulled out a gun and shot Officer McLain in the forehead. A passerby took him to the Malden hospital, but he died along the way. He made that ultimate sacrifice. And we're standing here right now, 86 years later. So you might say, Chief, why did you invite us here 86 years later? Why today? Why now? We're not really here to honor Isaiah McLean, and when I say that, I say it because I'm always reminded of what Abraham Lincoln was confronted with at Gettysburg, when he said, correctly, there was nothing that they could do at Gettysburg to add or detract from the honor that the fallen had already achieved for themselves. And even though we're here 86 years later, I'm also reminded of a line from a poem by Stephen Spender. And President Reagan used it on the anniversary of D-Day when he was at Pointe du Hoc, where the Rangers scaled the wall and grasped onto the soil of Europe to free it. And the line from the poem referred to those soldiers, saying that they left the vivid air signed with their honor. So for 86 years, this air has been vividly signed with the honor and the sacrifice of Isaiah McLean. So why did I invite you here today? Because his story is your story. Your story and his story is a narrative of sacrifice and service, a willingness to go where others run from, to march toward the sound of the guns, to advance toward the sound of the thunder. That's what you do. That's what you do. That's your story. That's your narrative. You write that story every time you come to work. Every tour of your duty, you write that story. And you write it with a pen that is not always flawless. The penmanship of that story doesn't have to be perfect. It's who you are. It's the greatness that you achieve. It's what you do for others. At times, when you write that story, you write that narrative, you're a pencil in the hand of God. You're doing God's work. But you don't have to be perfect. And maybe the reason why we're here today is Isaiah McLean vividly wrote the skies with his honor. And we cannot honor him today by putting up this sign. He's already done it. But that narrative that you write every day, every tour, everything that you do for the good of others, that narrative has to be remembered. And we know that there are some people who have tried to take that narrative of service and sacrifice and distort it, debase it, and detract from it. And that's not right. So we're here today, not so much for Isaiah McLean. The vivid air that is signed with his honor is also the place where he looks down at each and every one of you right now, proud to say, my brothers and my sisters are doing what I wanted to do. And he did it, and he paid a price for it. In his story, he had planned to retire and go back to Maine. It didn't happen. It didn't happen. But his story continues to live through you in the good work that you do and in the pride that I feel for each and every one of you. So I thank you for being here today. There is no family of Isaiah McLean that I could contact. It was 86 years ago. There's nobody here that knew him. Nobody here that worked with him. But that really doesn't matter. He was part of the blue line. A blue line that doesn't break and never will. So he's one of you. So he is here. And his work continues through you. And I guess I would say that if he could say anything, he wants to thank you for being here and be safe in what you do. So because there's no family here, Officer McLain was badge number 1, the most senior member of the Malden Police Department. So I would ask Steve Bellavere, our badge number 1, to unveil the plaque. At that time, taps will be played and we'll get a command for a salute. Okay?
Detail, attention! Present up!
That concludes the ceremony. Again, I want to thank everybody for being here. I'd like to particularly thank our brothers from the Mass State Police who, in a review of the records, were part of the search and ultimate capture of the murderer of Officer McLain. And I'd also like to pay a particular debt of gratitude to Bob Anthony from the Boston Police, who has done this for many, many, many police officers in Boston and was a great help to me in having the sign made and given me some of the perspective that he has drawn over the years. So, and I want to also thank our brothers and sisters from the Malden Fire Department, who, as we know, are always there when we need them, and we often join them on a variety of emergency situations. So I want to thank everybody for being here. Sometimes, I think Albert Einstein said that coincidence is God acting anonymously. This morning when I came up here to just kind of check on some of the small details, one of my heroes was out taking a walk, as she often does. And Mrs. Halloran, if you don't know her, is a Malden resident whose husband made the ultimate sacrifice with the Boston Police Department. And like our Mrs. Callahan, she's a source of strength and inspiration. She holds a special place in my heart, and I see her in church all the time. And I know she's going today at 12:10, and she said she was going to pray for Officer McLain. He was remembered at the 6:30 Mass this morning. But just looking out there, I saw her, and I wanted her to come up because these are real stories. It's a real burden, it's a real sacrifice. I can imagine what Isaiah McLean's wife went through when she got the news, carried the grief, and went on in life. And these are the real heroes right now. This is what it's all about. This is what the life of service that you have chosen to do has an impact on many people, and it's something that can never be forgotten. And when I see somebody like Mrs. Halloran, who I gave a Malden mask to this morning, it really resonates with me. So Mrs. Halloran, I want to thank you again for taking the time to honoring us. Just by your presence here alone speaks volumes, and overwhelms anybody that wants to comment on the reality of American policing in a way that takes away from the awesome good that we do every day.
I just want to say, can I just
Go right ahead. Go.
I just want to thank all of you for your service. It's an honor to be here and to see all of you present. You have no idea how much it touches my heart. Thank you for all that you do. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, you can all go back to work, go back to your details, or go back to whatever you're doing. And again, thank you very much. This means a great deal to me. It is not in any way the end. In December, we will be doing this again for Watchman David Faulkner, who made the ultimate sacrifice for his community, for his police department on Summer Street, and we'll be doing this again. Okay? So thank you very much.